You ever get the feeling that a house is breathing when you're alone? That soft inhale between thunderclaps. That's when you know you're not the only one awake. Tonight, I found out what that breath really sounds like. It started on what should have been a lazy, ordinary day off. Outside, rain smothered the streets, dripping constantly, pooling like the world was melting into itself. I stayed in, the kind of day where the storm outside makes you feel sealed inside your own world. By 5, the sky was bruised purple, lightning flashing sharp across the windows. Perfect mood for a horror movie, I thought. I cooked dinner, turned off the lights, and let the storm's growl merge with the movie's screams. For 2 hours, I sat in that dark living room, TV glow flickering across the walls, the storm hammering harder with every minute. By 10 o'clock, I wasn't tired, but the room felt different. Edges sharper, corners deeper. I stood to stretch and refill my water, telling myself it was just another night. That's when it began. When I turned toward the hallway, I saw it. A shadow moving across the wall, too quick, too smooth. It wasn't mine, and it wasn't the TV. Just a split-second slide of darkness slithering away before I could blink. I froze, heart pounding. Then, like an idiot in a horror movie, I walked over. Nothing. Just an empty hallway. Maybe it was lightning. Maybe I was still keyed up from the film. I told myself it was nothing. But then it happened again. Back on the couch, I let YouTube play in the background, videos I wasn't even paying attention to, when something shifted. Behind the TV glow, a shadow leaned out, like something peeking around the corner of existence. I whipped my head around, but the doorway was empty. My chest felt tight. My arms prickled. The house didn't feel like a house anymore. It felt like something was watching with me. Then the sound came. A thud. Heavy. Violent. The kind of sound that makes your skin peel tight. I ignored it, climbed upstairs, telling myself a shower would wash the fear away. I let the water run for 5 minutes, steam fogging the mirror, trying to calm down, when the second thud came. Louder, harder. The house itself seemed to shiver, and then silence. Not normal silence, but the kind that presses against your eardrums until you feel dizzy. I rushed out, barely dressed, every movement screaming in that stillness. I crept down the hallway, down the stairs, and that's when I saw the back door. It was ruined, torn from the inside out. The top hinge clung desperately to the frame, but the other two had been ripped clean. Splinters littered the floor. It looked like someone had swung it wide open with such rage that the wood itself couldn't hold. I bolted upstairs, adrenaline like fire in my veins. My room, my bathroom, door locked. 911 dialed with shaky hands. The whole time I thought, I'm trapped in here with someone. Sirens were still far away. The silence pressed down like a hand on my throat. When the police finally arrived, I expected relief, but what they told me froze me more than any intruder could. The door hadn't been torn from the outside. It had been ripped from the inside. Whoever or whatever had been in my house that night was already with me. The shadows I saw weren't tricks of the light. They were movements. Someone slipping just out of view every time I turned my head. Someone living in the dark edges of my home, frustrated enough to break a door to remind me they were real. The police found nothing else. No footprints, no fingerprints, no missing items. Just destruction without purpose. Just violence to be seen. They left me with quiet reassurances. But how do you reassure someone that the thing in your house doesn't want things? It wants you to notice it. I never slept in that house the same way again. At first I avoided it, staying with friends, hotels, anywhere else. But eventually I returned, and even then, every storm, every shadow, every creak made me stop breathing. The worst part was the realization they weren't trying to take anything. They were watching, waiting. And when the door ripped apart, it wasn't to come in. It was to try and get out. Later, when I patched up the door and tried to sleep, I left a light on downstairs. Not for comfort, not really. Deep down, I knew the light wasn't for me. It was for them, to remind them they were being watched too. Sometimes at 2 a.m. I still hear the house inhale. Not to hurt, not to enter, just to listen. And if you've ever felt a shadow move when you're alone, don't blame the storm, don't blame the movie. Sometimes the house is telling you its own story. Sometimes it's warning you that whatever lives inside doesn't like being ignored. Next week, I'll tell you what happened when I tried to sleep with every light in the house on. Spoiler alert, the lights don't always help.
It was last winter. The snow wouldn't stop falling, and the streets were buried so deep that I barely left the house for days. I worked from home that week, sitting at a small desk in my bedroom, watching the storm swallow the world outside. The house was tiny, just one floor with 2 bedrooms, cozy but isolated, the kind of place where silence presses in on you. On this particular night, after hours of working at my desk, I finally got up around 8 to make dinner. I cleaned, took the trash out, and that's when I noticed it. The snow on the left side of the house looked wrong. Everywhere else was smooth and untouched, but there it was disturbed, sunken, like something had moved through it. I walked closer, my breath fogging in the freezing air. And then I saw it. Shoe prints. A line of them, leading down the side of my house and stopping right beneath my bedroom window, the very window where I had been sitting all day. The prints twisted and turned in one spot, like whoever it was had stood there for a long time, just watching. A chill spread through me that had nothing to do with the wind. Thankfully, the blinds had been shut, though tiny slivers between the fabric would have let anyone peek inside. My desk was directly behind that glass. Were they watching me the whole time? I told myself I was overthinking, went back inside, locked everything, and tried to brush it off. Later that night, before going to bed, I checked again. The snow had covered the prints, smoothing everything over. Clean, normal. I felt better. I triple-checked the lock on the window and finally went to sleep. The next morning, I woke up and the first thing I did was rush to that same window. My stomach dropped. Fresh prints. Again. I threw on boots and ran outside. The snow was undisturbed anywhere else, only by my window. Someone had been there again, watching. Panic clawed at me. I called the non-emergency police line. They took a report, but what could they really do? The rest of the day, I tried to work, tried to ignore the anxiety. I checked the window every so often. The snow covered the tracks. Nothing new appeared. When night came, I let myself breathe. I pulled the blinds back one last time and saw smooth, untouched snow. Relief flooded me.
But just as I was letting the blinds fall shut, my eyes caught something. The latch on the window. It wasn't locked anymore. I froze. I had triple-checked it, never touched it since. With shaking hands, I tried it. The window slid open easily. That meant Whoever was outside last night had unlocked it in the middle of the night while I slept. Had they been inside already? Were they in the house right now? I backed away slowly, grabbed my keys, and bolted out the front door into my car. I called the police again and waited, headlights cutting through the swirling snow. My heart wouldn't stop pounding. Minutes crawled by. Finally, flashing lights pulled into my driveway. An officer went inside to check. I waited and waited. 5 minutes passed. Too long, way too long. And then the officer came out, dragging a man in handcuffs, both of them covered in blood. The officer told me the man had been hiding inside my hallway closet. He had been in there the whole time. He was about 45. His eyes were cold, hollow, evil. They said he fought when they found him, lunged out of the closet with a knife. The officer managed to subdue him, but the look on that man's face, I'll never forget it. He had been in my house while I was sleeping, watching, waiting. What would have happened if I hadn't checked the window? If the police hadn't come in time? So, if you ever hear a sound outside on a snowy night, if you notice footprints where there shouldn't be any, don't ignore it. Because sometimes they're not just passing by. They're waiting. And next time, they might not stay outside. And if you thought this was terrifying, wait until you hear about the man who woke up every night at 3:15 to find his bedroom door wide open. I'll tell you that one next time.